Okay, this is lesson 6.5 off your iPad. It's talking about multiplying polynomials. Multiplying polynomials, you're still going to use the distributive property throughout all of this. So nothing has really changed other than maybe the number of terms that we're having to multiply. So, example 1 on chapter 6, lesson 5. Let me get to it on my iPad here. Okay, it says, why learn this? It says you can multiply polynomials to write expressions for areas, such as the area of a dulcimer. And a dulcimer is a musical instrument. Anyway, let's get into multiplying monomials. Okay, I can look at this problem and I can see that I do not have any subtraction, addition, or division. It is complete multiplication. So don't forget that this is multiplication. So I break this apart to look like 5 times x squared, bring down your multiplication, and then 4 times x cubed. And from here we can just simplify. I'm going to have 5 times 4, which is 20. I'll mark them out after I simplify. And then I'm going to have x squared times x cubed. Remember, when you're multiplying like bases, you add the exponents, so that becomes x to the 5th. Next example, or next problem is C. Again, I do not have addition, subtraction, or division. It is all straight multiplication. So I would break it apart to be 1/2 times a cubed times b times a squared times c squared times 6 times b squared. Okay, what is, when we combine our like terms and we're doing multiplication and all that, we know that we're going to take 1/2 times 6, which is going to give me 3. I'll mark them out after I combine them. And then on my a's, I'm going to have a cubed times a squared, which is going to give me a to the 5th. B's, I have b times b squared, which is going to give me b cubed. And then that leaves me with c squared. And that's all I can do on that one. Example 2, multiplying a polynomial by a monomial. Okay, I'm going to take this monomial and I have to distribute to each term in this polynomial. So it's still the distributive property. So I'm going to have 5 times 2x squared, which is going to give me 10x squared. Bring down my plus. 5 times x, which gives me 5x. Bring down my plus. 5 times 4, which gives me 20. I have now combined all like terms, so that's all I can do. B. I have a monomial times a polynomial. So again, I'm going to distribute. Let's break this apart here. I have 2 times 3, which is 6. X squared times x, which is x cubed. And then I have the y. Bring down my minus. 2 times 1 is 2. I have x squared. Y times y is y squared. These are not like terms, so that's all that I can do. On the check it out problems right below that, I'll do 1b. So you can have one more example if you need it. I have 2 times r squared t times 5 t cubed. I can see that it is all multiplication. So I'm going to have 2 times r squared times t times 5 times t cubed. 5 times 2 is 10. That leaves me with r squared. Again, I'll mark them out after I combine them. T times t cubed gives me t to the 4th. Actually, this type of problem went with example 1. Example 2, checkpoint, I'll do 2a. No, I won't. I will do 2c. It looks like a little bit more of a challenging one. 2c. I have 5 r squared s squared r minus 3s. Okay, it's still multiplication. So I still have to distribute. Okay, so I'm going to have 5 r squared times r gives me r cubed s squared. Bring down my minus. 5 times 3 is 15. I have r squared. S squared times s gives me s cubed. Okay. And I do not have like terms, so that's all I can do. Alright, moving on to example 3. Multiplying binomials. This is where we are introduced to the FOIL method. The FOIL method, the F stands for first, the O stands for outside, the I inside, and the L is last. So what exactly does first, outside, inside, last mean? Well, if I'm multiplying a binomial times a binomial, which I am in this case, I'm going to take my first terms. That means I've got to take this x times x, which gives me x squared, and then my outside terms, x times 5. That gives me 5x. I just distributed this x to each term. Since I'm distributing the x, I now have to look at the 2. These are considered your inside. So 2 times x gives me 2x. 2 times 5 gives me 10. Combine your like terms from there, so we're going to have x squared plus 7x plus 10. That is the FOIL method. I just distribute this first term to everything in this second, and then the 2 to everything. We can also use a Punnett square. Y'all should be familiar with this from biology, especially when you have 2 parents and you're trying to figure out what their offspring, what kind of traits their offspring might have. That is called a Punnett square as well. I am multiplying, I'm going to use this same binomial times binomial, so I'm going to have x plus 2 and x minus 5. Oops, when I did this I made that a plus, sorry. Okay, so x times x gives me x squared. X times 5 gives me 5x. 2 times x gives me 2x. 2 times 5 gives me 10. Combine like terms. I don't have any other x squareds. 2x and 5x gives me 7x. And then plus 10. Okay, on B, I have x plus 5, the whole thing is squared. My other classes tried to tell me that I take this power and I have to distribute. That is power of a product property. This is not a product. This is a sum. This is addition. Product is multiplication. So therefore I cannot distribute this. So what exactly does the squared mean? Well, this is a group. Okay? It stays together. What if I asked you to write 5 squared as a product? That would become 5 times 5. Z squared would become z times z. Okay? It's the same scenario. Except this time, we're going to have x plus 5 times x plus 5. Then from here, We'll use the FOIL method or the Punnett square. We're just going to distribute everything since it's multiplication. I'm going to have x times x, which is x squared, and x times 5, which is 5x. Now that I've distributed the x, I now have to distribute this 5. So 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 5 is 25. From here we'll combine like terms. So I have x squared plus 10x plus 25. We'll do a checkpoint. Checkpoint, I'm going to do 3c right here. I'm going to have 2a minus b squared times a plus 4b squared. So I'm going to distribute 2a times a gives me 2a squared. 2a times 4b squared is going to give me 8ab squared. Then I have negative b squared times a, so that's going to give me negative ab squared. Then negative b squared times 4b squared is going to give me negative 4b to the fourth. Combining like terms, writing this in standard form and everything. Do I have any other a squareds? No, so I'm going to have 2a squared. ab squared, those are your like terms. So 8 minus 1 is give me 7ab squared. And then that leaves me with 5b to the fourth. Okay, again, we're still multiplying polynomials. Okay, it's still the same thing. I have this binomial times a trinomial. It's multiplication, so I'm still going to distribute. 3x times negative 2x cubed is going to give me negative 6 x to the fourth. 3x times 5x is going to give me plus 15x squared. 3x times negative 6 is going to give me negative 18x. Now I have to distribute out this negative 4. So negative 4 times negative 2x cubed is going to give me plus 8x cubed. Negative 4 times 5x is going to be negative 20x. And then negative 4 times negative 6 is going to give me positive 24. And so from here, we're just going to combine like terms. Again, we want it in standard form, so I'm going to start with the highest exponent, which is the 4. So I have negative 6, x to the fourth. Cubes, I don't have any other cubes, so I'm just going to bring down my plus 8x cubed. X squared is no more, so I'm just going to bring down my 15x squared. And negative 18 minus 20 is going to give me negative 38x plus 24. And that's all we can do there. And I think I'll do 4a on this checkpoint. Okay. Now x plus 3 times x squared minus 4x plus 6. Alright, let's distribute. X times x squared gives me x cubed. X times negative 4x is negative 4x squared. X times 6 gives me plus 6x. 3 times x squared gives me plus 3x squared. 3 times negative 4x is negative 12x. And 3 times 6 gives me plus 18. Combining like terms, do I have any other cubes? No. Squares, I have negative 4x squared plus 3x squared, which gives me negative x squared. 6 minus 12 gives me negative 6x. and then plus 18. Alright, the last example is a music application. And it's going to be talking about that dulcimer that we talked about at the beginning of the lesson. A dulcimer is a musical instrument that is shaped like a trapezoid. Okay? When we talk about a trapezoid, we have what we call bases. And we label those as base 1, base 2. Okay? That's what your trapezoid sits on. And then your perpendicular distance is going to be the height. The height is always perpendicular, which means it forms a right angle. Alright. In this diagram, I can see that B2 equals h plus 1, and I can see that B1 equals 2h minus 1. Alright. It says, a dulcimer is a musical instrument that is sometimes shaped like a trapezoid. And there's my diagram. Write a polynomial that represents the area of the dulcimer shown. You know it's a trapezoid, so you have to know how to find the area of a trapezoid, which you can find on your chart. They give it to you right here. It is 1/2 times height plus B1 plus B2. Those are your bases. Alright, well let's plug in everything we know. Do we know the height? No, it's h. Do I know B1? Yes, I do. Do I know the B2? Yes, I do. So we're going to plug in everything I know. So I have area equals 1/2 times h times B1 is 2h minus 1 plus B2 is h plus 1. Alright, well look inside parentheses. See if you have like terms. See if you can do anything with those. So I have area equals 1/2 times h times, what is 2h plus h? It's 3h. -1 plus 1 cancels out. So now I have area equals 1/2 times, what is h times 3h? It's going to be 3h squared. Okay, remember when you're multiplying fractions, you just multiply straight across. So that gives us 3h squared all over 2. That is for finding area of the trapezoid. And it says find the area of the dulcimer when the height is 22. So my h is 22. Well, since I know this formula, I can plug 22 in for h. So I'm going to have 3 times 22 squared divided by 2. If you're going to put that in your calculator, break down the numerator first. Just put 3 times 22 squared. Be at 1452 divided by 2. Okay, divide that by 2. We know that the area of this trapezoid is 726 inches squared. Okay, that's today's lesson. On your assignment, here's the numbers that we're doing. Okay.